The Explorer has always been a bread and butter model for Ford, but a few years ago when it came time to redesign it, the company made a little bit of a mistake. This was COVID times and there were production issues aplenty, meaning that the big switch to rear-wheel drive that Ford was hoping people would cheer actually turned out to be somewhat of a mistake. Now that model has gotten its first facelift for the 2025 model, and we're going to see if Ford can correct some of its past mistakes. Now we are driving a 2025 Ford Explorer Platinum trim. This is the most luxurious model, but it's technically not the top because the Explorer ST, which is a sportier version, is a little bit more expensive. Now I'm loving this rapid red tint coat color. I believe that is a new color for the 2025 model year. It does really look great here. And I think the Platinum trim is really nice looking as well. All of the grills have been enlarged for the 2025 model year, and you get a model specific, or trim specific, should I say, grill. The Platinum is going to have kind of this chromey finish that is a little blingy, but I don't think it looks too distasteful. The headlights have been updated as well. Now we have a Platinum Ultimate package that, among other things, is going to get us these larger 21-inch wheels. Not the hottest style, but there are some really cool wheels available on the Explorer in general. The wheel sizes are going to include 18-inch wheels. On the base model, you can get 20s as well, and then these are the biggest 21-inch wheels. Now, this is a rear-wheel drive vehicle. We actually don't have the all-wheel drive here on this particular one, but you don't really see that by looking at it. This could be a front-wheel drive platform car. It does have a really long wheelbase for the segment. It is a little bit shorter than some of its rivals, as we're gonna see from the inside as well. It doesn't have quite as much interior space as some of the leaders in this segment, like the Chevy Traverse. I really like kind of the forward angle of this C-pillar here. I think that looks rather striking. We do have the roof rails up on the top as well. We also have a nice redesigned rear end. We've got some restyled taillights. I like that it just says Explorer in black. We have our Platinum badge letting us know that we have the most expensive model. And then we actually have these really nice kind of quad exhaust tips here. Not a bad look until you realize that the actual tips actually aren't the tips at all. They actually come out of the bottom here. That's a little bit of a throw off, but they do at least look really nice from here in the back. Speaking of things that look nice, let's talk about the interior, where we've got the nicest interior available on a 2025 Explorer. We also have this really nice leather color. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. Ford is going to call this Salt Crystal Gray. You can also get this in a darker color called Mojave Dusk, but I'm really preferring the Salt Crystal Gray. If you're willing to be a bit bold and take a light interior, I know some people with children might be a little bit nervous to go ahead and get this color. You can see that it has Platinum written up here on this little badge. We also have this really nice kind of French stitching and diamond quilting up here. That is going to come as part of that Platinum Ultimate package. The regular Platinum doesn't have seats that are quite this nice, but this is one of the nicest seats that you can get on any mainstream SUV like this, because it has heating and ventilation, and it also has massaging seats as well. That is something that is really, really rare at this price point in this segment. Now, that white leather is going to be paired with kind of this faux wood look. It's kind of like a dark gray. Looks really nice here across the dash, if I'm being honest. We also have an upgraded B&O audio system. They did the kind of Mach-E thing where the entire dashboard kind of looks like the speaker. I don't think the whole thing is a speaker, but it does kind of look like that. Of course, we have push button start. Here on this model, we have a redesigned steering wheel, and the dashboard is very different if you've ever been in the previous generation Explorer. We now just have one screen. If you can remember, you used to get two different screens in the Explorer. There was kind of a square unit, and then there was kind of a tall portrait style one. Those have both been replaced. 13.2-inch touchscreen is now standard with a 12.3-inch gauge cluster, all digital included as well. Now, if you've been in any of the new Lincoln models, like the new Lincoln Nautilus, you'll notice that this infotainment system is powered by Google. That means it does have built-in Google. We can go ahead and ask it things. For example, let's get out of that. What are we doing here? What was the score of the Eagles game this weekend?
The Eagles won 15-12 last Sunday against the Saints.
So it'll tell you pretty much anything that Google would be able to answer. So I do really like that. We also have some kind of fun games in here as well. This isn't an EV, so you're not going to be going ahead and sitting for a long period of time to charge this car. But if you are on a family road trip, maybe the kids have to stop to pee, mom takes one of them in, the other one is bored here in the car, you can actually play this asphalt game. I'm going to go ahead and try to turn down the volume. So this is really cool. You can actually like Bluetooth a controller to this and play it. So that's something that's kind of neat here that you don't get in a lot of other cars. I think that is kind of a cool touch. We have standard power seats. I forgot to mention when we were talking about the seats on all Ford Explorer models, we also have 8 USB ports, 3 12-volt outlets. This is all stuff that is great for being a family car. And I really like this redesigned dashboard here. We've got our wireless charger up here, a little bit of storage here. You've got your little storage lid that lifts up right here, revealing a USB-C and USB port down there. Cup holders here, rotating shifter that frees up a lot of space. You've got your drive mode controller down here. So a really premium cabin. We also have our big panoramic roof. We've even got a little sunglass holder as well. So pretty much all of the storage that you could really want in a car like this. All of the luxury that you'd really want as well. Ford did a really nice job here. The only thing I would say I maybe have a complaint about is that accessing the climate control has to be done here on the touchscreen. They got rid of all of the physical buttons and controls. Some people might miss that. Now, obviously, when you're buying the Ford Explorer, you're probably planning on putting kids and maybe even adults here in the back seat. Now, you can get a 3-seat bench back here, or you can opt for these captain's chairs as a no-cost option. I think the captain's chairs are nice, but remember that the third row only has 2 seats back there. So if you get the captain's chairs, you are a bit limited in terms of how many people you can take in your Explorer. You can only fit 6 people. You can fit 7 if you go for the regular bench seat. The only model that isn't available with the bench seat is going to be that Ford Explorer ST. This Platinum model is available with the bench or these captain's chairs. You do also get some nice sunshades here on the Platinum trim. We have more of that nice diamond quilting. We actually have a cup holder here on the door as well. These seats are heated. You cannot get ventilated second row seats here on the Ford Explorer. So that's one way that the Kia Telluride and Hyundai Palisade still remain a little bit nicer here in the back. They're also a little bit better in terms of legroom. I've just slid the seat back as far as it will go, but we still only get about 38.2 inches of legroom here in the back. To put that into perspective, you're getting a little bit more than that in the Chevy Traverse and in the Kia Telluride, so not the best in terms of rear legroom. We do have our own climate controls back here. I mentioned the heated seats. We've got tons of USB-C ports, 2 of them here, and an AC outlet. And then if you do need them, you have some very small cup holders here. You're really only going to be able to fit maybe like a can of soda or something in there. So nothing too crazy. Now you can pass through to the third row seats if you want, because you have the captain's chairs. Or you can also fold the seat. It's very easy. You just click this button and the seat will kind of eject. Then you're going to have to push it just a little bit. The seat is very low to the ground, as you can see here on the base, as we go ahead and flip up the headrest here. Although once I'm in, you can see I have a decent amount of room. Actually, a really surprising amount of headroom, although my knees do feel kind of like they are sitting up into my chest because I mentioned how low this actual seat is. We do have some cup holders back here, more USB ports back here, some USB-Cs, along with tons of different storage as well. So that is quite nice. We even have air vents back here as well. This is not the biggest third row in the segment, but it's pretty good in a pinch. Now, as we wrap up in the back seat, we're going to talk about cargo. I should also mention something that I forgot to talk about on the outside, which is that you can get a black roof on the Explorer, but I wouldn't recommend it because Ford charges almost $5,000 for it. I think that is absolutely ridiculously expensive for something as innocuous as a black roof. So I don't think too many people are really going to get that. We do have a power liftgate here on every single Explorer model, so you don't have to get the Platinum to get that. So that is a really nice touch. The cargo itself is kind of just okay for this segment. We've got 16.3 cubic feet of space back here. The Traverse has 23 and the Telluride has 21. Just to put that into perspective for you, we do have a little bit of extra storage here underneath the floor. You can see a backpack fits back there just fine. You could probably fit a second one as well. Now, to fold down the rear seats, you have to make sure the headrests are down. That's going to be done by pulling these manual straps, but then you can either fold down just the left or just the right, or push this button in the middle to do both. The seats are power up and down, which is kind of nice here on the Platinum trim. That's going to open it up to 46 cubic feet of space. Again, not as much as the Chevy Traverse, but pretty comparable to the Kia Telluride. And then if we go ahead and fold those captain chairs, which you cannot do from back here, you have to go up there to the second row. To do that, you're going to be getting a little under 86 cubic feet of space. That is a lot less than you're going to get in the class leader, which is the Traverse. That has over 98 cubic feet of space, but it's really comparable to something like the Telluride, which has 87 cubic feet of space. So just keep that in mind when you're buying the Ford Explorer. You're really not getting class-leading levels of room, but you are getting a really nice interior. And as we're about to find out in the road, you're getting something else really special under the hood. All right, now let's get behind the wheel of the 2025 Ford Explorer. Interestingly, this is actually the first time that I have ever done an official review of the Explorer. I have driven the model from like a generation ago and the generation before that, you know, just before my capacity as a journalist, but this is the first time I've ever officially been able to review one. And I've kind of been missing out, if I'm being honest. Now, the last generation Ford Explorer was really not so special in a lot of ways. It was just kind of a generic three-row crossover. It had been kind of like a body-on-frame trucky-ish vehicle before that. You could get it with a V8. They even did a little Ford Explorer Sport Trek pickup truck, but then they decided to kind of make it front-wheel drive, unibody, just like all of the competition, and it kind of lost a little bit of what made it special. Then for the current generation, they decided to go back to the rear-wheel drive platform. Now, it was still a unibody crossover, but the rear-wheel drive kind of made it a little bit of a unique vehicle in the segment, but sadly, Ford had a lot of production issues with that model when it first came out, so it really didn't do that well. Now, for the 2025 model year, we've got all of the refreshed stuff, including some little bit of changes to the powertrain. So the base engine is still going to be a 2.3 liter EcoBoost 4-cylinder with a turbo, 300 horsepower, 310 pound-feet of torque. Those are really good standard numbers for this segment when a lot of others are still using naturally aspirated V6s that have under 300 horsepower and way less torque. And even some of the turbocharged options just really can't match what this Explorer is able to do. You do get a little bit more power from the Chevy Traverse and GMC Acadia, but those are both front-wheel drive platform cars, not rear-wheel drive. The other reason why the Ford Explorer is pretty much untouchable in the mainstream segment is because under the hood of this Platinum trim that I'm driving, we've actually got the upgraded engine, a twin turbocharged EcoBoost V6. It now produces the same power that it does in the ST model. It used to be slightly detuned. That means we get 400 horsepower and 415 pound-feet of torque. There is really nothing else in the segment that gets close. You've got the Toyota Grand Highlander with the Hybrid Max drivetrain, but that only produces about 365-ish horsepower. So this Ford Explorer has that beat by quite a bit. Now remember, that is all going out through a 10-speed automatic transmission. It's a really, really good one to either rear-wheel drive or optional all-wheel drive. Both engines can be rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. So you can actually get a 400 horsepower rear-wheel drive Ford Explorer, which is actually what we're driving here. This is the full 400 horsepower model. We do not have all-wheel drive giving us more traction. So what's going to happen when I come to a full stop and I brake torque it and we see how 400 horsepower gets down to the rear wheels? Let's get your predictions in the comments and let's go. Ready? A little bit of turbo lag off the line. No drama though. No wheel spin. And that was 5.82 seconds. Now, I actually ran it in about 5.6-ish seconds before, so I know it's capable of doing it a little bit quicker than that. I think brake torquing it is actually not the best way to get the best launch off of this car, so I'm going to go ahead and make a turn, and we're going to try it one more time. But a sub 6 second run for a 3-row midsize mainstream crossover, not a luxury crossover, is still very highly impressive, because a lot of vehicles in this segment are really running kind of mid 7 to low 8 second runs. So anything under 6 is really quick. I'm going to go ahead and try and just step on it and see what we can get from this. I'm going to actually turn the traction control off, I think, or back on. I think that's going to make it a little quicker. Let's go. Come on. Sounds good. That was 5.87 seconds again. So I think a mid 5 second run is definitely possible. I'm telling you, I did do that before I started recording. It was about 5.6 seconds. That's still really quick. But the thing that I don't want you to do is look at that sub 6 second time and look at the 400 horsepower and look at the rear wheel drive and think to yourself, yes, that is a 3-row Mustang sports car basically, because it really isn't. As I take the Explorer Platinum around corners, I am reminded that even in sport mode, there's not a whole lot going on with the steering. It's very light. There's not a ton of accuracy to it. This is not the ST model, which is going to get like bigger brakes, better suspension, and all of that stuff. I am really curious to try the Explorer ST because I've never driven it. I'm not sure if it really represents that big of a difference compared to the Platinum that I'm driving, which has basically the same powertrain here. But I would be curious to give that one a try because there's really nothing else quite like that here in this mainstream segment, because 400 horsepower, that's more than what you're going to be getting from like a base Audi Q7. It's more than what you're going to be getting from even the inline 6 version of the BMW X5. So it really just doesn't have much competition. It sounds great. It makes a really smooth, buttery noise. The 10-speed automatic transmission works really great. I actually just drove the Traverse, which is a competitor of this from Chevrolet, and the 4-cylinder engine in that was just really groany, didn't feel very fast, but it made a lot of noise. This makes a decent amount of noise too, but it's a sweet sounding noise. So if you like the sound of having an engine, the V6 is probably the way to go. I bet you the 4-cylinder is probably a little bit quieter. It probably doesn't produce as much of a nice engine note. And 300 horsepower is really nothing to shake your nose at either, but 400 horsepower, man, that's pretty good. We're going to do one more launch, see if I can get it a little bit quicker. Let's go traction control off again. Let's brake torque you. And let go. Come on. Nope, that's going to be way too slow. One more time. Come on. Come on. I know you can do it. Nah, that was just below 6 seconds, but still pretty darn quick. I would say the suspension has not given me any reason to think that this is an uncomfortable car, even with the big wheels. It's very soft, which is a little unfortunate around corners because this had the potential to be one of the really sportiest vehicles in the segment. I don't know if I would go that far, but again, it's kind of a low bar for this style of vehicle, but you are going to be really comfortable in this car for a long family road trip. It's pretty quiet in here. The suspension is really soft, and you get Ford's Blue Cruise technology on every model except the base trim. That's going to make it very comparable to the Chevy Traverse and the GMC Acadia, both of which are available with GM's Super Cruise. Blue Cruise, not quite as good as Super Cruise, but I'm very interested. I'm going to be driving this about 1,000 miles up to and back from North Carolina. So be on the lookout for my full report of what the Ford Explorer Platinum is like as a road trip car, because I have a feeling it's going to be really good. I'd say the one thing it doesn't do that great, although it's really not all that bad, is fuel economy. I mentioned that there is no more hybrid. The hybrid is gone unless you are a police officer. Then you can order the Ford Explorer Hybrid as a police vehicle. But the fuel economy is not that bad. The 4-cylinder is rated at 20 mpg in the city, 29 on the highway, 24 combined. You get a small hit for getting all-wheel drive. you're going to be getting 20, 27, and 23. Now, the V6 is going to take a hit from there, but both the rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive versions get the same fuel economy. There's no penalty for getting the V6 with all-wheel drive, so you might as well get it if you're going to be getting the V6. You're going to get 18 mpg in the city, 25 on the highway, 21 combined. Honestly, that's not that bad. And for the amount of power that you get in this, the nicer interior that they've given for this 2025 model, it's a darn shame that I haven't been able to review an Explorer earlier, but maybe they weren't as good before now. This 2025 facelift is a really nice vehicle, and if you're looking for something that's a nice alternative to the luxury badges, you know, your Infinitis, your Acuras, your BMWs, your Audis, that has that similar level of power that you're used to from those vehicles and a similar feature content, the Ford Explorer is definitely it. All right, so that is going to wrap up our time with the 2025 Ford Explorer. There are only 4 trim levels, but there are different configurations, so let's go ahead and talk through them. The base active trim level, that's going to start at just under 40 grand. You're looking at 39,755. That is for rear wheel drive. Remember that every trim is actually available with rear wheel drive. Adding all wheel drive is going to cost $2,000 regardless of the trim level. Stepping up to the ST line is going to make the Explorer a lot more sporty, but really doesn't add much in the way of power because that is only available with a 4-cylinder engine, as is the active. That's going to cost you $44,515. I think that is a really nice trim level for a lot of people. So long as you want a sporty looking Explorer and you want it to be under 50 grand, that is a pretty nice way to do it. This Platinum trim is going to run you $51,565, but that does not include for a lot of things. We've got that Platinum Ultimate package. You've got to add $4,600 to the price of that. So you're looking at nearly 60 grand for this fully loaded, which is a lot of money for something with a Ford badge. But keep in mind that the Lincoln Aviator, which is based on the Ford Explorer platform, is far more expensive. I believe that can get into the $80,000 range. And if you want the sporty ST model, that's going to start at just over $55,505. So that one's not super much more expensive than the Platinum, considering that that one does come standard with the V6 engine. You don't have to upgrade to it. Now, other vehicles in this segment can get close to and above the $60,000 mark. I know that is really crazy that a mainstream crossover can be at that price point, but if you are looking for one that gets all of the luxury features that you were expecting from something with an Infiniti, an Acura, a BMW, an Audi, or even a Mercedes badge, the Ford Explorer kind of has it. And I honestly question why you'd want to spend that much more money to get the Lincoln Aviator. I think Ford did such a nice job here with this Explorer. It's got more power than most of everything in its segment. It's got really nice features like massage seats up front. The hands-free driving is a major deal maker for me. I would really consider this if I'm going to be taking a lot of road trips with the family, because it takes a lot of the ease off you as a driver. And honestly, price-wise, it really isn't that much more expensive than some of the other vehicles in its class. But let me know what you think. Would you consider the Ford Explorer over its rivals? If not, let me know which one you would buy if you were in the market for a mainstream 3-row crossover. And as always, if you enjoyed this review, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell to be alerted of our latest videos, and I'll see you next time.